you, Sushma. On behalf of Sushma, Sudha, and I, the three co-founders of Second Careers, very warm welcome to our session today, and a very happy New Year and best wishes for 2025. We are so glad that you could make it today. We had a series of such conversations on the social sector and opportunities in the social sector in the last quarter, and those were very well received. Today, we hope that we're going to be equally glad at the end of the session when we know a little bit more about the outlook for the sunrise industry, the GCC industry. So I'm just going to talk to you a little bit about what we've planned. We have two very eminent women leaders from the GCC industry on our call today, and we're very fortunate to have them. Welcome to the call, Mohua.
Thank you, Shanti.
Mohua leads Novartis' corporate center in Hyderabad. She's an IT services and BFSI technology veteran. So Mohua, welcome to the call. Aparna also has a very strong background in technology and GCCs, and she currently is the site leader and MD for Sencora's business services. Both Novartis and Sencora are in the life sciences industry. Sushma, any opening words from you? Sudha is on a flight, so she's unfortunately not able to join. But Sushma, any words from you?
Oh, just a very warm welcome. And it's wonderful, Mahua, that we are on the same podium again after many years. So I'm delighted to have you and Aparna for this very enlightening session. So over to you, Shanti.
Thank you, Sushma. What we've planned today is a half an hour to 40-minute panel discussion with Mahua and with Aparna, followed by a Q&A. And we will share an opportunity that has surfaced from the GCC world on our platform, on the Second Careers platform, and tell you a little bit more about how you could go around applying to that opportunity or anything else that is on our platform today or in the coming future. Just want to talk about what seems to be the industry of the decade, the GCC industry. And it's gone through significant evolution. We all heard of outsourcing and offshoring many, many decades ago, but it's truly transformed into an innovation-led industry because of multiple reasons. The huge talent base India has, the ease of doing work in India, the ability to actually establish a 1,000-member team in just, in a year in under 3 months, which is fantastic for any country to offer. And the power of technology, the ability of our talent to actually use newer technologies like AI, machine learning, blockchain, data sciences, all of those to ensure that there's not only efficiencies delivered to the organizations, but also a huge amount of innovation and value driven for the organization. Today, we have about 1,700 GCCs. This number is set to explode. Many of these GCCs have subunits within them, and today we have close to 3,000 GCC units in the country. What is actually very, very interesting and astounding is that we already have about 2 million people employed by this industry, and this number is set to get to between 2.5 and 2.8 million by 2030. So that sets a phenomenal context for me to actually just ask our veterans, and I'll start with Mahua and say, Mahua, what is the promise of the GCC industry? What's the outlook and how are you feeling about it?
So as I was hearing you, see, GCC 20 years back, I would have said that it was a very insecure industry. There was a lot of, we were not I was not part of GCC then, but GCC as an industry was not very secure in the skin because it was seen as an outpost. It was always GCC leaders had to compete with the outsourcing, IT outsourcing companies or BPOs. And that was the challenge. Today, I feel the biggest difference is GCC industry is a very confident industry, very confidently talking about who we are, what we have to offer. Come join us. So when we go to the job markets, it's not no longer that, okay, why go to Infosys? Why don't you come and join us? That's no longer there. So I think the biggest difference that we are seeing in GCCs is GCCs are confident. Second thing, GCCs used to be only ops and tech shop. That has changed completely. In most companies, it does everything. I know in my previous company, when I took over, it was ops and tech. When I left, it was every single group. Novartis already is there. And most GCCs are there. It's not new. So I think overall, it's a much more complete offering that GCCs have in a confident way, talking to all the ecosystem partners equally. So that's in a nutshell. I can go on and on with that. I'll let Aparna talk.
No, very well said, Mawa. And Shanti, to your question, to talk about the promise of the future, maybe we'll just quickly look into the history and what has got us here. I think India is not new to GCCs, right? It's probably 1985 where what's the name? Texas Instruments set up the first office in Bangalore, but it didn't pick up, I think, till late 90s. That was when it really started booming, and then the last 25 years have been all the hard work over the last 25 years is what has got us here today. And like Mawa said, it's gotten more confident. I think in the initial days, it was more prescriptive. Headquarters would say do steps 1 to 10, and it was called shared services, captives, a lot of names that it's gone through the whole journey, would execute these transactions. Over a period of time, there was more trust built, more knowledge, more technical domain expertise, of course, but the kicker or the turning point was when business knowledge was built in. And that business context made a lot of difference. It helped the GCCs partner with different functions in the organization to really come up the knowledge curve. Then GCC started owning a certain portfolio or a certain responsibility for the entire organization, like innovation, leading innovation for the entire organization, for example. And it's sort of become an innovation hub, or this hub that is really trusted. And that is what has led to the confidence. I remember in the initial days, okay, and this might sound really funny, but I think I was 35 or so, and I was sitting in a park. I had this really black nail polish, and I remember a lady sitting next to me. That poor auntie, she just asked me, BPO in Kannada, like, do you work for a BPO? Because she considered me as wild or uninhibited with my black nail polish. I just keep laughing. That was the image, right? And I don't know how coveted it was, at least in early 2000s. But today it is seen like a very important industry and role, right? So India is the GCC capital of the world today. And I think in the next few years, we're going to cross 3,000 GCCs here. So the promise is more global roles sitting out of India. I think last week I saw the announcement of one of the GCC heads being the global CTO, which is such a proud moment, right? More partnership with industry bodies, startups, or even with each other. The GCC community itself has become so strong. You meet and make friends, and that's how Mahua and I have met through various conferences, etc. Non-traditional areas, it's no longer about tech, finance, but even ESG COEs are being set up. Even sales and marketing today is being done out of GCC. So I think the promise is it's only going to get bigger and better and stronger, and more opportunities for us.
Wonderful. That's great to hear. And you spoke about the CTO role, the global CTO role, which is not a surprise, because for long we know that the technical or technology talent base in India is very, very good. But I also heard you mention the word domain. Can you elaborate a little bit on the domain part of what you mean, and what was the opportunity there?
So when I meant domain, I meant it could be it could be finance domain, it could be tech domain, just the expertise there. I think without building technical expertise in no matter which area you're in, it's hard to get ahead, So building that domain knowledge, the process knowledge, the functional skills is important. And then over and above that, of course, there are a lot of other things that is needed in today's VUCA environment, right? Adaptability, working with diverse cultures, your global agility and things like that. So I hope that answered the question, what I meant by domain.
If I
Yeah,
may
and
add to it a little, to
yes,
the
please.
domain thing. So, see, the biggest challenge that the GCCs in its early days used to feel is while I was not in GCC, but Sushma and I, we mothered a future GCC for up to a big number, and then we handed it over. So we know that the feeling that was there is that the domain knowledge, what Aparna meant said, domain knowledge was all sitting in the headquarters. So how can you do things on your own? You have to be prescribed.
Yeah.
Is no longer the case. Today we have most GCCs have the actual function. So it is no longer, that's what I meant when I said it used to be operations and technology. So it was just the support services kind of work that was coming to the GCCs. Whereas today, the actual retail banking, actual capital markets employees, I have even seen the traders sitting in India trading in other geographies. So a lot of the actual domain business work is happening. And when the next person sitting next to you is doing the actual business domain work, business process work, it automatically elevates our, I mean, the ability of the techs and ops person also to do something innovative. So I think that's a big change that the GCC industry has seen. And mostly in the last, I would say the last decade has been excellent. Ideally, mostly the last few years. Yeah.
Yeah.
Got it. Well, thank you so much, Mohua. You know, I was reading recently a GCC report, and it spoke about the large number of engineering design centers that have come up. So the Airbuses and Boeings, they all have centers here, and those are all seeming to expand. So there is this merger between technology, which has become almost a horizontal across every industry, and industry-specific knowledge that provides some, unique opportunities for people in India, I think, which is again terrific because, otherwise somebody is working in DRDO for all their life, but if they get an opportunity to work with Boeing, how amazing would that be? I think. So that brings me to the next question. Right? When we think about 500 to 800,000 new jobs being added as leaders of GCC, what keeps you awake at night? How are you going to fill those vacancies in your own organizations? Which roles are going to be tough to fill? Which ones are easier? And Mahua, maybe we can start with you.
So, see the challenge that GCCs, I mean, from a hiring perspective, that India offers, whereas India is seen as the best or the brightest people, the best place to set up a GCC. The only thing that comes against us is that the hiring timeline is very long. And many things contributes to it, like the 3 month notice period. No other country has it. All put together, hiring timeline is seen as a big negative for Indian GCCs. And to that, if you add that, okay, but if suddenly there's a surge in the number of people that we need, then definitely it will add to the problem. But at the same time, I think GCCs have also left many avenues open. For example, our fresher hiring, and when I say ours, it's not. I'm not talking about Novartis. I'm saying in general, GCCs fresher hiring is not as much as the IT services, for example, because we typically tend to depend more on experienced hire. I think that will change. We are all talking about early talent. We are all talking about partnering with the different universities. It has started in pockets, especially the BFSI GCCs are a little further ahead compared to the others. So definitely early talent will now take off a big time. Similarly, the diversity hiring, while the GCCs, mostly of the MNCs, are known for the broad-minded culture, policies, etc., but still because our need was not that much, probably diversity hiring was not that much of a focus. I mean, I'm not, when I say diversity, I don't mean necessarily gender, because yes, there are many women in the GCC industry, but I'm talking about other diversity. So I would say that many of these avenues are open. So we just have to change our style of hiring. Our talent acquisition has to look differently. The other thing we need to look at, everybody's looking at it, are the returning Indians. There are so many people who want to come back to India, given that our economy is in such a great shape. There is so much that the Indian economy can offer. So all of these are open, which we have really not explored to that extent. And I think that so the GCCs just need to look every other way, not just hiring from each other and poach from each other.
Aparna, your thoughts on, talent strategies that could make a difference in this environment?
Sure, and I think Mahua has covered most of the points, but I will add to it. See, today I think we've got 1,800, I think undocumented, probably 2,000 GCCs. And if you're saying in the next few years we're going to be 3,000, the challenges will probably remain the same, what we have today. It'll just be amplified because you have more opportunities and more number of GCCs coming in, more roles. So the challenges today is, first of all, how do you get our internal talent upskilled for all the roles that are coming in? How do we get the right external talent? How do we make our talent ready for global roles? And of course, like Mahua mentioned, diverse talent. The reality is all of us are competing for the same talent group. And today, talent has so many options, right? So one of the things that we all have to get right is, what is our USP and why should someone join us and not the remaining 1,999 GCC? So it'd be very important for all the GCC leads to think about that a little. Purpose really helps, meaningful work helps, good training programs, good engagement programs help. And like Mahua said, getting our talent acquisition to think a little differently also. Today, largely we restrict our talent pool to both genders, more so one gender than the other. We've still not achieved a good gender diversity as an industry. I think we're probably at 35% or so. But then we're missing all the other talent pools. So in a past life, right, in another GCC, life science GCC that I was leading, we focused on differently abled colleagues, hearing and speech impaired, visually impaired colleagues, people who have done their, people from the Army and Navy, from veterans from the armed forces, trans communities, also children of farmers, for example. And those are still largely untouched talent pools. So just to diversify the talent pool and not make it restricted, and that paid off. And like Mahua mentioned, early talent, what I've noticed is if you get people fresh out of college, they stay with you for at least 3 to 4 years, which is ideal, especially when there's so much of competition. Second is, how do we train our colleagues once we get them? Because yes, the domain knowledge, tech knowledge is extremely important. But, I read this joke, actually, it was a meme that said, I want AI to do my laundry and dishes so that I can focus on my art and writing and not the other way around. But the reality is today, AI is taking over a lot of our work, right? So it'll be all the more important that the human skills, the person behind the AI tool becomes, what's the right word? Uses their empathy, uses their leadership skills, collaboration, and communication much more strongly, because it is a global environment. It is a VUCA environment. We had COVID a few years ago. There's a scare of another virus, which I just read is not that scary anymore, but that adaptability, that agility, stepping back and looking at the bigger picture, connecting and working cross-functionally, those talents or those skill sets become even more important. Cultural intelligence becomes very more important, because we no longer work only within the region, right? A lot of us in the GCCs are supporting several regions. So I think these skills, see, digital, technical skills, your cybersecurity, AI, is just getting hotter and hotter. Data analytics, data governance is going to be important, but also I think very importantly, the people skills, which is thinking cross-functionally, critical thinking, problem solving. And I mentioned a bunch of others like agility, adaptability, all of that is going to be important. I think and I feel this is a very underrated skill, risk taking. that's going to be important as well. Leaders who can experiment, leaders who can take a risk and rally people along with them. We need more people like that in the future. So some of these skills will be important. They're a challenge today, but they're an opportunity also. How do we develop the leaders of the future?
Yeah, no, this is music to our ears, Aparna. And the reason I say that is that at Second Careers, we are a platform for looking at people who are experienced, who are experts, who are 50 plus, who are looking to, find relevance in organizations, fulfill a purpose, and utilize the skill sets that they've garnered across, several years of experience. So some of the roles that you spoke about, some of the characteristics that you spoke about, this is the group that will naturally possess some of those, just having gone through years of
Absolutely.
experience, right?
Yeah.
So I think this is music to our ears, and I see a lot of questions on the subject of roles. So I'm actually going to ask you to talk about the 50 plus group. You did speak about gender, and you spoke about armed forces and several other diversity groups. And age is actually not a diversity segment, it is an inclusion segment, right? Because everybody is going to get there. It's not unique. So,
Yeah.
so when you look at this group, can you think of a couple of roles where the industry is going to say, yeah, this is the group I want to look at. I want to look at people with experience and expertise, and we will welcome people, even if they don't have the GCC background, to come and apply.
The questions for me, Shanti?
Yeah.
I can. Sure, I'll go ahead. I do think there is a bias. Let me just bring it out right up front. I do think there's a bias against age. And I think as an industry, we need to get better at it. As a society, we need to get better at it because, as you rightly put, we all are aging. I know I'm digressing a little bit, but the point I want to make is I feel that as we get older, we also I don't know about everyone, but I have felt this, and I've spoken to a few women, they felt it too. When I turned 40, I felt very liberated. I don't know why. But I remember at that time, I had checked with a couple of other peers in the industry saying, do you feel the same? Like you feel free somehow till that age. It was all about doing things for everybody else. And something switched on in me where it was like, now I'm going to focus on myself. So I think it brings wisdom. You have a sense of liberation where you want to do the right thing. You don't care so much about opinions that are holding you back. And you also feel that there's a sense of wisdom. And it's been many years after that, but I still feel that was a turning point for me because I just felt freer. And I think the 50 plus group, right? What is the unique USP of that group? There's maturity, there's wisdom, there's years of experience, there's leadership skills. You've gone through experience that you can share and mentor others. And there are, of course, strategic insights because you've done several roles till there. I think this group needs to look at leveraging those skills. So what do I mean by that? One is, doing consulting advisory roles or mentoring upcoming leaders, governance or board kind of roles, or even, we just spoke about domain knowledge, right? If you look at today, a lot of things are simplified for the younger generation. Like you take a computer also, everything is through the user interface. But if you go back and try and solve a problem of why certain things are done in a certain way, it is this group that's gone through the journey of different versions of technology, which probably some of them have not even heard of, the legacy systems or things like that we have had in the past. So subject matter expertise, that's where I think this group can play a role. Training is something that I think, even if I think, what do I want to do in the next few years? Training is something that is very exciting because you have a lot of material to share. So the training and development is an area where I think this group can help as well. Or even, roles that need community outreach, DI advocation kind of roles. And I'm pretty sure I'm missing a few roles there, but I think GCCs can definitely leverage the stability, the mentorship, and the adaptability of this group.
Thank you, Aparna. There's a lot of different thoughts and ideas that you've given. I'm going to ask Mahua. Mahua, 2, 3 roles that come to your mind that actually the GCCs are going to look at this talent pool for.
So there is a first speaker's advantage. Aparna has covered it all pretty much. So I mean, as I always say, I think. See, if I look at in a very narrow way, if I look at just a skill-based thing, I would say a big area of focus or a big area where the 50 plus talent can come in handy is mainframe talent. Banking sector still has a lot of mainframe. We all struggled I struggled in my earlier time that with mainframe because today's kids don't learn mainframe. They don't want to learn. It's not sexy enough. So different companies, different banking GCCs actually have learning centers. They've developed centers where they train their employees as they come in to mainframe. So I think that's an area where definitely this age group can step in. Only worry is this age group also, say 50 plus, they have also moved on in their earlier career also itself. They probably have wanted to and moved on from mainframe. So if there is a need for mainframe knowledge, maybe they can brush it up because they have the basic. So as a skill, as a technical skill, I would say that's an area. And to that, as Aparna said, any role which probably needs, and it's a very bad generalizing because there are many people who are very much 50 plus and very, very tech savvy, but still I would say if I have to generalize, any role which needs less of technology and more of experience, ability to connect with people, ability to bring in multiple different varied experience and put it together in one problem solving, I think those are the roles. If I think about it off the top of my head, say if I look at say an admin head role in a large GCC, that kind of a role needs less of technology because they all have technical support people working with them, which they can who they can reach out to. But the experience that they bring with themselves with their over the years of experience, over the years of working as an admin, is vast, and the kind of challenges that we face today in the not just the GCCs, in any organization is unique. I mean, the Gen Zs and Gen Alpha, and I know I'm talking like an auntie, but that's just the reality. The kind of challenges that I have been facing, it's so weird, some of them, and a very experienced admin head comes in so handy because they know how to resolve these problems. So I think from a role perspective, these are some of the roles, but the most important thing is it's not going to be a very friendly or a very known work atmosphere for these people because, as I said, I mean, people like me are few and far between in GCCs. We kind of skew the average substantially. Most people are in their 20s. So when we are talking, when any 50 plus person comes into an organization, it is going to be an element of adjusting. And because a newcomer typically has to adjust more, and the younger generation, I don't know how much people skill or the empathy that many of us were trained to have or were supposed to have as a child also. I don't know how much today's kids have it. So there will be an element of I won't call it unfriendliness, but it's an unknown area. I mean, they will get a not so friendly atmosphere. So it's an openness to accept it. And to Aparna's point, the GCCs or any organization for that matter really, really needs to. Actually, GCCs and IT services more because our age group is very, very young. We really need to grow up and learn how to bring in people who are older than them. I won't call it older than us, but older than them, because that is really important. And I think it will happen because, as you said, you have to hire, we have to hire all kinds. And the minute the need comes, we know that it cannot be only 20 somethings for every role. So it will happen. But it's just every change will take some time.
So Mahua, I think both you and Aparna have touched on something that's very integral to the group here. And I am monitoring all the chat questions that are coming up. And team, I will get to all the questions, but I might collapse a few of them. So Ajay and Munish, I hope you are happy with the answers that we've given you. Yes, there are opportunities, but specifically there are questions on whether Subramaniam wants to know whether senior biotech professionals, and particularly since both of you are from the pharma sector, and there is questions for HR, and there's questions for sales, marketing, and business development with people who are 50 plus. Do you see opportunities in these three categories?
So Sushma, I will go first.
I'll leave it to either of you want to jump in.
So I'm not talking for Novartis in particular.
Yes, your industry.
If I look at the industry, see biotech or any skill set which needs, or any role that needs high tech skill, I think age is still easier to adjust to, because if I look at life science or pharma GCC, the average age is typically 10 years more than any other GCC. So acceptability of slightly senior people is higher, no doubt about it, because we need the domain knowledge, we need the technical knowledge, and just the experience helps. Now, sales and development, if you ask me, there is sales skill can only go up, and sales skill it doesn't need technology. Some people are just born salespeople, and they will go and sell ice to the Eskimo, doesn't matter how. So I think, I think age should not be a problem in that either. Similarly, you mentioned HR. HR is an area where I think the experience really helps, and I don't see experience as a deterrent. So for all these, I feel the most important thing is the openness to accept this age group. To what Aparna said in an earlier question is that there is a bias. There is a bias, but as long as that bias can be broken, I don't see any problem in doing these roles. These roles are actually very conducive. And given that today AI can do a lot of roles, I think the roles which the only way for people to remain relevant and important is to grasp our people skills. Because what AI can't give and what people can bring are the people skills, and which is in plenty in this age group. So honestly, other than the very tech roles, I don't see any role which will not be doable by this age group.
Wonderful. Aparna, anything to add? Otherwise, Shanti, can I take a few more questions, or would you like to carry on?
No, I think the questions fit in right into where we are, in the Q&A. So, I mean, in the discussion. Please go on.
Yeah.
So here are two other questions which sort of fit into the perception of a GCC. So Krishna Prasad basically says GCCs are still viewed as back office fulfillment centers. Front office roles like sales leadership or business development typically is where it's customer centric. How will GCCs offer opportunities to global sales leaders like me? So it's an extension of the question.
Aparna, go ahead.
I can go ahead and take a stab at that. And also probably I will combine it with, there's a question from Ajay that says that 50 plus people will not be considered. No, that's not what I said. I meant, see, the talent pool is open for everyone. there are biases that everyone holds. So if you notice, even today, you don't have 50-50 split in gender as well, with women and with both the genders. So are we saying there's a bias against women, or women are not being actively considered? No, that's not what I meant. I said there's a journey, and today I think people appreciate the inherent bias against one of the genders, and a lot of work has been done on diversity and inclusion. And just like Mahua said, we will also get better with age, but there's always the predisposition to look at younger people. So what I'm probably, I'll clarify. What I'm saying is the talent pool is open, it's diverse, and GCCs need to do a better job in hiring diverse people and including them in the organization. Now, how does somebody make themselves more attractive to an employer? That work, so it's a partnership. So that work, even the candidate pool needs to do to stay relevant, to understand the latest techs and trends, to be part of, and there's another question of how do you connect and find these opportunities, right? I'm not sure how many of you are on LinkedIn or attend different industry forums. And so I'm an introvert. I do not like social media a lot. Again, I don't want to sound like a dinosaur, but it is something that comes with the nature of job. So I do make it a point to update my profile, to connect with different industry leaders, to keep updated on the things that I'm doing and learning on LinkedIn, for example. Then taking out the time and effort to meet different people in your network, building your allies, acquaintances. So I love this 3A analogy that somebody had told me when I was much younger, and that's helped me. The 3A's are allies, acquaintances, and advocates. Acquaintances are people that you know, but they're not really a friend. You're not very well connected. Allies are those who have your back and will, put in a good word for you. Advocates are those who will vouch for you in a closed room where you're not present, right? Will put the reputation on stake. Can we systematically build our network, moving our acquaintances to allies and allies to advocates for ourselves, will vouch us and tell us, hey, this is an opportunity here, it's going to do good for you. And not just within your company or your industry, but look at different variety of industries. For example, it will be skewed in the beginning. Maybe your acquaintances are more in the company you're currently working in, or in the industry you're currently working in. Or if you're working in, say, a process like AI, maybe the AI industry knows you well, but not the others. So it takes a lot of time and effort, especially if you're an introvert, but to systematically build that out, that helps you as well. So I think it's a while the GCC industry needs to do a better job of diversity and inclusion, but I think the candidate pools also have to work on standing out from the rest. There's so much of competition, there are lakhs of applicants for a role. So how does one make themselves attractive is also important. Now on sales. So sales is a relatively new function for GCCs. I don't think, like, for example, your IT, your finance, or HR is very, very common in most GCCs. So GCCs go through a maturity curve as well. So normally when someone starts a GCC, it goes for accounts payable, IT services, and those kind of processes. Sales, ESG, etc. are fairly newer, non-traditional processes that I've started in. And I think, like marketing services or taking off some work from the sales team so they focus on the customer is some of the things that that have started being done in different GCCs. Krishna Prasad, I would say, if you marry your sales knowledge with AI, for example, customer insights and things like that, that's a role that you can play. Now, I don't know how many GCCs, I think the front runner, the more mature and best in class GCCs probably are doing this, but it will be a couple of years when this becomes much common in most GCCs, but I think the opportunities are definitely there. You can also be part of campus outreach for the sales GCCs and training them with the domain knowledge that you have built over the years. That is a role that I can see happening in GCCs. Also, when new GCCs are being set up and sales is being started as a new function, I think you can play a key role in bridging the gap between the sales function and the GCC that is now being set up. So the leader of the GCC who is bridging the sales team probably can benefit from your GCC knowledge and the tech knowledge that's being built here. And the GCC team can benefit from the domain expertise that you carry from the sales force, the customer insights and things like that. These are a couple of things that I think could be relevant to you.
Yeah, well said, Aparna. And organizations like Second Careers, right? What we are trying to do is also be that bridge, bringing in extremely high quality talent. And to all the people who have tuned in here, okay, like anything that's new, we have to continue to work with the industry, and that's the endeavor with which, Shanti thought of this whole idea of bringing the GCCs together, and we at Second Careers are committed to continuing to open such avenues. Back to you, Shanti.
On that note, Sushma, thank you for that. I do want to share, while this is not a sales position, I do want to share that we have an opportunity on our platform today. This is from a GCC, the Marsh McLennan GCC. It's a multinational organization. It's a senior director role, and it's a sales support and admin COE role, looking at excellence in the sales administration function. So here you go. There's one example of a GCC role at a senior level that's already on the Second Careers platform. So Mahua, Aparna, you spoke about this being a journey, and all all diversity and inclusion journeys start with actually breaking that mold. So here's one job that's been posted very recently on our platform. Yeah. For those of you who are curious to know how can you get access to these opportunities, I'm just going to take another minute before I get back to Aparna and Mahua for my follow-up question. Go on to secondcareers.com and sign up as a professional. So on the screenshot, you'll see that it's fairly easy. Circle what you need to get to. And there are 3 very simple steps to apply for any position. The first thing is you have to register on our platform as a professional and upload your profile. That's when your profile actually becomes visible to companies, and you can also apply to jobs that are relevant to you. So just register, update your profile, and it's very simple to update your profile. You can just use your LinkedIn profile or a PDF of your CV, and our AI tool will actually parse out the resume and put it into relevant sections. Then you can apply to whatever roles you're interested in. By the way, once your profile is on the platform, companies may also approach you. So I'm going to stop sharing that. I hope you got a real life example of at least one position that's already open for the 50 plus audience. Now, Mahua, my question is going to be, and I think Aparna had started down this path about allies, acquaintances, advocacy, all of those things. It's true that this group has to work a little harder to find jobs in this industry, but there's a lot of promise. What can we do to get to these jobs better? I mean, what skill sets should we acquire? What training, learning can help bridge some of those gaps? What's your advice?
Mahua, you want to go first, or I can?
Mahua is speaking, but you're probably on mute, Mahua. You're on mute, yeah.
Sorry. So what I wanted to say is it is less of reskilling. I would say the USP, finding the right USP of this age group would be the best way to first approach. Because see, if you look at the gap, then the gap would come out as mostly the technical skill, the digital skill. But is it really necessary to upskill and try for those roles, or is it better to play in the USP? So I would tilt towards saying that yes, some amount of understanding or knowledge of newer technology is beneficial, but it's better to play on the skill that this age group brings to the table. That's the first thing. Second thing, as I already said, it will be a different work atmosphere compared to maybe the first career that they had, because Now it is a bunch of Gen Zs and Gen Alphas, and who knows, maybe a few years later Gen Betas who have just started. So, so it is more the cultural openness to a very different work culture. Secondly, is playing on the USPs. But I feel that there is a lot more that rides on the organizations. Just the sheer openness and openness to hire this age group. I was seeing some of the comments that, well, when a 50 plus CV goes, it is how the HR looks at it. Now, one thing, for example, in India, we still ask for the date of birth. It's a no-no in most countries. That mindset, there has to be a big mindset change, which the organizations have to drive. Even if it doesn't become a law that, okay, don't ask for age because that's discrimination. I think from organizations' perspective, we can bring that. So there is a huge, so it's a path, it's a way, and both sides have to move and come to somewhere in the middle ground. I do feel that the organizations have to do the longer walk because for the employees or the potential employees, they're ready with a set of skills, and it's up to the organizations to grab it and find the right roles where, see, for example, when we started the focus on gender, everybody looked at the roles which are easier or which are more commensurate with the gender. When we started looking at people with, differently abled people, we found out roles that, okay, this is a role that can be done with this, even if you're visually impaired or you're physically, some movement challenge. And the organizations created, the environment also was created to help them. I think a bit of that is not a bit, quite a bit of that is still pending when it comes to the age group. And funnily, we are discussing it in India. This is not a problem. And Sushma, correct me if I'm wrong, you're sitting there. This is not a problem. I mean, a 50 something doesn't feel that it's difficult to find a job in US, is it? It wasn't. But
No, I think ageism is an issue across the board, but it is less so in the US, particularly with the changing engagement models. And that was one of the questions that I had for both of you in GCCs. People are hired as full-time hires, but here there are a lot of part-timers, there are a lot of flex-timers, and that is something that speaks so well to the 50 plus group. So how are the GCCs pivoting to that model where people are including, the 50 plus categories in these flexi engagement models? And if there is one thing that I'm very sure about as the entire world ages, I think this flexi model is going to, pervade. But how do you see it in GCCs?
Aparna, can I take that? Because
Sure.
that's a
Yeah.
favorite topic, huh?
Go ahead.
So, Sushma, to your point, tried this. I think this fits in so perfectly, especially in the operations role, which have a up the cycle at the end of the month. Say in the banking space, end of the month, certain operations really take off, and we tried so hard to hire people, especially senior people, to your point, in flexi roles, who will be trained. They'll work the few days that they are comfortable and the company needs, and this would be a perfect win-win. But when it came to all the regulations that we have had, it was almost with, say, the PF being added, the health insurance, the healthcare, this, that, everything that comes as part of regulation, the cost was going up so much that everybody thought, okay, then I might as well have somebody who's in my roles, even if it's not even if they're not fully utilized. So I think that's an area where organizations like a NASCOM or any other regulatory organization does have a role to play. And of course, the companies, organizations like ours, where there's a need, we need to push for it. But this is an area which I completely agree with you that this is a perfect sweet spot. And this will be a win-win. There has to be, but So how we did it, we just went through the model of hiring through some other third party organization, which is not the best way to go, because then you train somebody and that person tomorrow might be working elsewhere. So if we can carve out a flexible working model which works, I think that would be a true win-win. You just hit the nail on its head.
Great, great.
I echo the same. There was a time, I think not just the US, even Germany, for example, allows you to do part-time. I remember for leadership roles also, they would have two people do part-time for one role. So someone works for, 4 or 5 hours, another one. And when we were trying in a previous organization for returning mothers, right? Some people would have preferred to do part-time, but we just couldn't do it. And like Maua, we started off with hiring them via a third-party service provider, and then eventually they had to be full-time. So I think we'll get there as a country. Things have evolved, like our 3-month maternity leave has become 6 months, right? From 2017, if I remember right. So I think we're heading in the right direction in various areas. It'll take some time, but we'll get there, I'm pretty sure.
All right, I think we are coming towards the end, Shanti.
Yeah. No, I just want to ask anyone in the audience whether they'd like to unmute and ask a question that we have not yet asked or they've not put in chat. Because I know that we've picked up a number of questions from chat. Anyone wanting to ask a question to our speakers?
I would love to ask a question, Shanti, if I may.
Please.
Question to both of you, Mahua and Aparna. The question is around generational workforce, right? We are looking at 5 generations of workforce that we have to engage in. Are you already thinking about how to engage this multi-generational workforce and how to make it work for everyone?
Okay. Aparna, you want to go first, or?
I think the opportunity is definitely there. Unfortunately, it's probably skewed in most GCCs, an honest answer, because I know that now it looks like majority are millennials, at least 95% or so, and maybe there's 3-4% of Gen Z. It could look different in different organizations. Gen X is probably a smaller percentage, but I see how each generation can support each other. For example, if you have someone who from the 50 plus age group partner with someone in the 20 plus age group, right? It can be a mutually beneficial relationship. I can't find a better word. The word symbiotic comes to my mind, but that's the wrong word. A mutually win-win situation where the 50 plus colleague can actually pave the way from a campus to corporate sort of guidance, mentoring, training on leadership, soft skills, or even other problem solving. And the 20 plus person can actually help with the latest trends and technology. I've seen that they're extremely quick in using the latest apps and, navigate through different technical innovation. So I think it can be a mentoring and reverse mentoring sort of a combination that can benefit both for sure. And then it's a cycle, because the 20% plus person goes to the next generation. They will be in the situation that we are today, and that process will go on. But I think it can definitely exist. We need some programs to tailor this more formally. But yeah, that's the way I'm thinking.
And to your question, I'm sorry, I'm a little blind, so I'm not seeing the name. So to answer your question, see, the GC, one of the key skill sets that NANSCOM in the last 2 years report has pointed out with respect to GCCs is this multi-generational working together. And that will actually pave the way of, or is already, according to NASCOM, it's already a big positive that India brings to the table when it comes to the GCCs. So the few levers that has been identified as why India is winning over the other countries when it comes to GCCs, this multi-generational workforce working together is one of them. So To Aparna's point, very hopeful that this will only get better.
Great question, Mani. And to everyone who's tuned in, okay, I just want to say that there is reality, but it is also up to us, okay, to push the seams of reality, create opportunities, and, truly build an inclusive, work culture. Really, all of you have been super engaged. Any parting words, Aparna and Mahua, your own personal journeys? We've kind of stayed on point here and only talked about employment, but I would love for people to hear both your journeys because I know it's a very inspirational one. So over to you guys.
Go ahead, Aparna.
I would say that, okay, I remember an anecdote. Actually, I was doing the career conversation with one of my most favorite team member. I'm not supposed to say that, but somebody that I thought had a lot of potential. And I asked them, like, what are you thinking? How are you planning your career? And this conversation was probably 2012. And they said, Aparna, I think I'm going to retire by 40. And I asked them why. And they said, no, I'm tired of this corporate life, etc. And I felt that was such a lost opportunity. And that person is not retired, by the way. I think they're close to turning 50 now. um, I think people have a very wrong, and we as youngsters, when we were youngsters, had that same view. I think we're just getting started. Honestly, we're at the peak of our, like I said, once I turned 40, I felt very liberated. And I'm sure it only gets better. It's gotten better every year since then. I think there's so much of potential in the 50 plus age group. There's so much of energy. We finally know, who we are, the strength or the capabilities. It's much more clearer. You don't want to do things that you're not happy with. You know where your joy and passion lies. However, I think we don't do a good job, or this age group doesn't do a good job of branding, selling yourselves. And I tell this to my 17-year-old daughter, right? How are you going to stand apart from all the other 17, 18-year-old when you're applying to college, for example? It's the same. I think each of us needs to identify how we stand apart, stand out, and what is it that we bring to the table. Keep an eye out for trends. And I can just look at my career and say, I don't think I planned this. I started off doing something very different. And then the opportunities were there, but you have to navigate yourself and choose those opportunities. Yes, there's luck, there's hard work, there's a lot of preparation needed. But to keep that eye out and advocate for yourself, brand yourselves, upskill yourselves. Today you have LinkedIn Learning, you can do 5-10 minute courses also. For example. So I think the world is changing and we'll have to change with that. I know it's hard at times. It has always been hard to find the right job, right? Even when we were in 20s. So I think the opportunities are there and we should look at those challenges that we face today as opportunities and try and navigate in that direction is what I would say. Sushma, I missed it. Did you want me to talk about my journey?
Yes, please. Yeah.
Yes.
No,
See,
but
we
it's
are not
okay.
good in,
It doesn't matter.
you're not
What
good in
you said was on
advertising.
point, so
I'm
that's
not.
good. No, it was on point, so it's okay. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, in short, my journey. So I'm right now leading we're setting up the GCC from scratch. It's been 4 months with Sencora. It's a $294 billion organization, very new to the whole GCC concept. It's a Fortune 9 company, but we're just starting off this journey. Before that, I was leading Cargill's GCC, which is a 4,000 member team across Bangalore and Gurgaon in India. Prior to that, I was leading Bayer Monsanto for 12 years. I was their GCC lead. I was also doing several other roles like finance transformation. I was the global process owner for a couple of work streams. I was with Tesco for 8 years, with HP before that. So yeah,
Phenomenal.
so you can.
Phenomenal career.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Aparna. I think, Sushma, with your if you're okay, we can go ahead and close the call now. I just want to say that, Aparna, what you said was extremely inspiring. There's so much we can do to brand ourselves better and, grab those opportunities that may be there. We already possess the experience. It's about portraying it correctly. And at Second Careers, we're thinking exactly about how we want to help our professionals do that. So we're planning for something in Q2. And so stay tuned, everybody, on how we can help you build your brand better. With that, I want to say thanks. And Mani, great point. The best is yet to come after 50. And what better way to think about something like that in January, the start of the year. So all the best to everyone on the call. And Aparna and Mahua, thank you so much for being brutally honest, but at the same time inspiring. A lot of work to do, a lot of energy as well. Thank you so much.